Hi there viewers, welcome back to Drawing Stuff by Paul Yateman. Today I am showing how I went about recreating a photoshopped image I created way back in 1997. The original work somehow got saved at a low resolution and many Google searches never found the file I'd put up on an old website of mine, not even archive sites. And as my local file was a crappy low res one, I decided to recreate the drawing/image. I've been planning to do this for quite some time and figured creating a new website channel specifically for drawing was a good opportunity. I began in graphite pencil, switched to fine liners, here I use uni pins, and I finished it off with Copic markers. The time to sketch took approximately 30 minutes. With the sketching I needed to make the Star Destroyer wider as it was a tad squat. Using a ruler was handy here. Using perspective lines, which I didn't use, or at least not too much, would have been even handier. The aim was to recreate my photo manipulation, not duplicate it, so details and exactness are not a consideration so much. The time to do the lining or inking took about 18 minutes. Here I consciously used a technique that Scott Robertson uses, which is light lines for the background and heavy lines on objects that are on top of others. I started out inking everything with a 0.1 uni pin before moving to my 0.5 and then 0.8 fine liners. As we go on, you may notice the detail on the Defiant is greater than that on the Star Destroyer. This is due to the former being closer to the viewer and the Star Destroyer mostly being in shadow, and as it is very complex, I implied about 90% of the detail. As I add the thicker fine liner, you will see the objects begin to pop out of the page, and that is what we want. With the Star Destroyer, the areas in shadow also get thicker lines. Once I'm done with the fine liner, I erase the graphite and get stuck into using markers to colour my drawing in. Drawing took about 40 minutes. So total time for the drawing, 90. Basically, my lightest warm grey for everything before adding other greys and some colour. What I saw in another YouTuber's video was she placed her lids on the paper so the viewer could see what marker colour she was using. And I think that is a great idea and I implemented it for my videos. As well as showing what I can or perhaps cannot draw, by explaining or describing what I am doing, I hope to impart some knowledge to you, dear viewer. If by watching this video you are inspired to draw or even pick up some tips, then bravo! Mostly I stick to the greys before adding colour, and I'm referencing my original image for most of the colouring. With the moon, as it is gibbous, I black out that which is in shadow as I want the space when I colour it not to be too dark. Before getting stuck into the explosion and the background, I touched things up a little with my white gel pen. Here I am adding highlights of areas perhaps catching the light, which I assume would be the sun, or a sun or a star, as they are not fully in shadow, or perhaps there are viewports that are emitting light. And yet again the focus is gone. R or cursors. For the planet, I try something new with pretty bad fading from the planet's surface through to the atmosphere and into space. The hardest bit here was filling in the background as the area was way too large not to dry out before I'd finished. And you'll see a mostly circular motion used for colouring in when I do that. So first up with the planet, so you can see here I'm going through and I'm doing lines of the darker inks as I go along. And unfortunately, oh no, you can't see the cap. So B39 is what I use for most of the background. And I'll try to do some sort of blending with my B01 as I went on as well. And then some greens and some browns on the planet, and I added some grey as well, which I don't think worked out too well at the start, but it sort of turned out okay in the end, so that is good. That's about the only brown I've got. Yeah, so here's grey. I thought it was a bit too dark here, so I've gone over with some N2s as well. And then added some clouds, very scratchy clouds. And then I get stuck into the background. So I may have said it, the hardest bit here was filling in the background as the area was way too large not to dry out before I'd finished. This is why I use mostly circular motions to colour. It reduced the look of the shading that wasn't consistent. If I was to do a larger piece, gouache or Indian ink would probably be the go. Around the tricky bits, I used my marker's bullet tip and then I switched to the chisel for the big open spaces. So you can see this is the bullet tip. And then chisel tip. Circular motions. Circular motions. And I also go over a bit over some areas I've already coloured in where I think you can see the streaky bits. But it does give sort of a good nebulous feeling to the background once the final image is done, so that's good. I decided to add stars with my gel pen and do some final highlighting before reframing the drawing with crappy old cheap texture. And because this went out of line a little bit, I fix it up with the gel pen as well, which we can't see very well. So here's the final piece scanned in. What do you think? For a grand total of 90 minutes, it's a meh. Although you can clearly tell what is going on, so that's a win. Anywho, did you like the vid or find it informative or entertaining? Subscribe, like and share. See you next time. Ciao!